Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to On the Hunt. I am your host, Jessica Jones. I'm the Cryptid Huntress. Y'all. Man, I am fresh off the field tonight. Off the field, that sounds weird. Out of the field. I'm fresh out of the field. And yeah, I took a super secret little trip over the past couple of days. I am not going to be able to give a lot of details on that tonight because I still have guys out in the field tonight. Okay, but I did come home. Let's just say I was somewhere that I've been wanting to go for years now. I've been wanting to investigate this area for at least 2 years now. And I got to go yesterday and last night. And boy, did it not disappoint, y'all. And it is somewhere in Tennessee. That's all I can really say. And we found everything from gigantic 20 plus inch footprints of big footprints to Dogman tracks to having a lot of weird things happen to us last night. And it did pour down rain on us last night a bit, but it didn't stop us from having fun and from really getting out there and really doing some super duper boots on the ground field investigating out there in Tennessee. And I'm going to get more into that. We'll talk about it a little bit tonight. You guys, I have Mark Machek back. We got Cryptid here with us tonight, and we're going to be talking tonight about Kentucky and Tennessee cryptid encounters. I'm going to be talking about what happened to us last night a little bit. And the dark side of chasing Dogman and Bigfoot. And I got to say, I did camp out in an kind of camped out in an old cemetery last night. I wasn't really in the cemetery, but I was right there. And let me tell you, that was a first for me. And it was really interesting. You ever feel like somebody's always watching it out in the woods? That's how I felt last night. There was somebody watching me, my every move. Okay. And it was not comfortable, but it was fun. So, but nonetheless, we're going to talk about the dark side of cryptid investigations and just in general. Okay. This is going to be really interesting. Y'all know Mark's from up at the LBL. And so that's not where I was last night. I was not at the LBL. And today I just got home. I literally just got home and was able to take a shower real quick before we went live. But I was over more towards East Tennessee. Okay, so that gives you a clue right there. And shout out to all the guys that are still out there tonight. I can say since Drewski did post this on social media, I was with Drewski with Cryptid Warfare and Harley Owens. Yay, y'all. I got to go Bigfooting with Harley Owens last night and today. And so shout out to those guys. They're out there tonight. And so I hope everybody's safe. And I hope no ghosts followed me home. Okay. I did some protection on myself before I left. But man, I don't know. I don't know about these graveyards, y'all. But that's where the Dogmen are. So if you guys would like to follow along with all of my shows and everything I'm doing and my crazy butt, please go over to thecryptidhuntress.com. And you can find all of my shows are archived there. I need to update it. I'll update it in the morning. Okay. I've had a long weekend already. So I'm going to be updating my website in the morning. Y'all go check it out there. And I also have a Patreon and a shop. It's called War Woman Goods. If you guys are interested in getting some jewelry, okay, that's what I like to call it, is jewelry over there. I do appreciate it very much. Also, I'm going to be speaking at a couple of events coming up. If you guys want to come see me live and direct, I will be at the Myrtle Beast Bigfoot Festival. That is coming up in a couple of weeks. So that is in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. If you guys are interested, and join us at that. David Pardue will be there, Mike Famelant, Matt Delph, and Harley Owens will be with me again. I just got to see him today. And the guys from North Carolina Investigates, myself and Dr. Stamey will all be there for that. And so please come see me at that. And also I'll be at the Full Disclosure Now conference down in Florida in July. So y'all get tickets to that. I do have a discount code. Maybe my mod will put that discount code in the chat tonight, y'all. Thank you guys so much for being here. And to all of my moderators, y'all are the best in the business. Okay. So that is so wonderful that you guys are here. And everybody that's in the chat tonight, y'all all kick butt and take names, every one of you. Okay. Well, let's get to our show tonight, y'all. Okay. Because on this episode, I got Mark Machek here. Now, after a series of odd paranormal events, Mark Machek became interested in the paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, and because of the things he experienced, he embarked on a journey to understand the mysteries of the world. You guys can find him on his YouTube channel. That's Cryptidville. Y'all know Cryptidville. He's been here before, and he's oftentimes in our chats as well. But he has a website, cryptidville.com. So please go visit that as well. subscribe to his channel, and please help me welcome to the show my good friend from the Land Between the Lakes area, Mr. Cryptidville, Mark Machek. What's up, Mark?
Hi, Jessica. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, well, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. This was kind of last minute. I wasn't even sure if I was going to make it home for a show tonight.
Well, I was kind of thinking about that today, and I decided I would get in touch with you and see if you were going to have a show, and kind of evolve from there.
Oh yeah. Well, there's been several people that sent me messages today and tonight asking, "Are you having a show tonight?" Because I usually post it earlier, but I was out. I was driving. I had a long drive actually today, and it took me a while to get back, and so I didn't post anything until right before the show tonight. So surprise, we're here. I never miss a show. Okay, I try to never miss one, and tonight's no different. So I'm just glad that I made it back in one piece, Mark.
We're glad you did too. That is a long drive.
Thank you. The drive was worse. I mean, I don't know. It's a little creepy out there, but I'm used to the Bigfoots and the Dogman. I'm not used to the traffic. And I'm not kidding. Like, the traffic sucks. But yeah, does anybody go to Buc-ee's? Do y'all know Buc-ee's? I tell you what, stop it. I don't know if it's good or bad to stop at a Buc-ee's, man. I get anxiety going in places like that. But I come out with a really good sandwich every time I go. So shout out to Buc-ee's. I am open for sponsorships, Buc-ee's. Okay.
Has a little Buc-ee's beaver dancing on the screen.
Actually, my son had, okay, so we were on our way to the Florida conference last year, one of my conferences I was at, and my mom gave him $20 or $25 to spend in Florida, as a gift. And we went into Buc-ee's. He spent it all on Buc-ee's pajamas on a onesie, and wore that to our fancy dinner at the Full Disclosure Now conference.
That's awesome.
He did. So yes, I deserve a sponsorship now. Okay. I'm just kidding. That is so funny. No, we like to keep it fun, and yeah, they do. They have good stuff there. So it makes the road trips worth it sometimes. But nonetheless, yeah, I've still not made it up to LBL yet, Mark. I'd like to come up there soon. But I'm making my way up there. I was in Tennessee, and I've done some investigating up there, and so Kentucky's next. It's next.
Well, you better bring you some chigger dope and some
chigger dope. What? You're talking about some bug spray?
Some chigger repellent and some snake boots if you're going to come during the summer.
I have both. I actually had plenty of bugs that went. I was trying to figure out why my nose was stuffy today. Well, then I remembered, because I inhaled all those gnats last night and this morning. That's why. And yeah, I really did inhale a whole bunch of mosquitoes and gnats today. And it's rough out there in those woods, out in those mountains. But yeah, it's one of the dark sides of chasing Dogman.
For sure.
I guess, getting those mosquitoes in my nose and stuff and in my mouth. But yeah, just making it out in one piece is always good as well. So I don't know. Okay. What have you had going on up there? Is there any news, any kind of new stuff going on at the LBL that you know of?
Well, we've had a lot of bad weather here recently, and there for a time they had some of the areas closed down. As far as activity goes, haven't really heard of a lot. That doesn't mean that there's nothing going on. It's just, there are like phases that take place during the course of the year, times that are more active than others. And it's kind of interesting. But lately I have not heard of anything.
What is a good time? Because see, I know like in different areas that I go to, it's kind of the same like year round. Like we know when the best times to go Bigfooting and going to check out the Dogman spots and stuff. We know when to go because it's when the weather's nice usually. Okay. But see, my team goes, and I know because my team goes whenever it's snowing, whenever it's 150 degrees outside. We go all the time, year round out in the field. But at the LBL, do you find that like maybe it's more when the weather's nice that the critters come out?
Well, I would say that it's probably, I mean, I've been over there when it's been nice, and I've been over there when it's been, bad weather. I've been over there during crazy weather, and, and had activity during all those times. So it's really hard to nail down a time frame that's actually better than any other.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it comes down to uh, location. It's not
Location.
it's not necessarily the time or the conditions that you go, but it's the location, because the reality of it is that through the years I've spent a lot of time in the LBL,
Mm-hmm.
and um, the majority of that time, and I know that people might think that this is a little bit on the unsafe side, but a lot of those times I was forced to go alone because I could not find anybody that was willing to go. Um,
Oh
a lot of
gosh.
a lot of people would talk a big game, but when it actually came time to actually put the pavement to put the get on the pavement, they just
Mm-hmm.
weren't interested in really going. So yeah, I mean, all different times of the year, different conditions, um, all kinds of different scenarios, different places. I've been in places where I've had nothing happen. I've been in places where I've had things happen. Um, it's kind of interesting the way that fluctuates.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Not everybody wants to go to the LBL, because a lot of people, and I've noticed this too about, I mean, and I don't invite people out to go with me to where I go to my spots. My spots are kind of secret. Okay. And so I don't invite a lot of people out, but places like the LBL, I could think, I could say that, I mean, I think it's like people want to go there in their minds, but what is it? The rubber meets the road. That's what it is. Rubber
Yeah,
meets the road. When rubber meets the road, uh, it's actually quite daunting. And once you get into places like that, it's kind of scary. It's just like last night. Yesterday I drove up to Tennessee, undisclosed location. Okay, and I knew that we were going to be camping out near a near a cemetery. Okay, I knew that, but undisclosed location, right? But you get there, and it wasn't even it wasn't anything like I thought it was. I thought it was going to be a little more scary than it was, and it really wasn't. But I guess it's because of the people, the company that I keep, like those guys that were out there with me. I feel really safe with them. Okay, I feel really safe. That's really important. Um, but I would never go by myself to somewhere like that. And even with one other person, I don't know. I think I'd probably go with one other person. Okay, to something like that. But I would never go by myself, Mark. I just couldn't. But I don't know. I know that when the normal average person that wants to go that's not a cryptid field researcher, I can't imagine them wanting to even get out of the car when stuff gets scary out there, or even when you're just driving through the LBL. I think it'd be kind of scary, but I don't know. I don't know.
well, I think the big thing about it is this. A lot of people think that the LBL is a joke, and I'll be the first to tell anyone, you're not going to go over there and instantaneously have some kind of uh, supernatural encounter, or even a physical encounter with something. I mean, you may, but the odds of that happening are really slim. I've had a lot of encounters around this area, but it took me 25 years to have those encounters. Um, so, but with that, you know, the LBL is not a place to be taken lightly, because
Yeah.
you don't have just Bigfoot and Dogman to contend with over there. You have a lot of other factors that come into play that could change the course of your visit
Mm.
in a not good direction. You know,
Hmm.
so I tell
Well,
people,
like, can I ask you, like, what do you mean? It's not just cryptids. It's like people out there.
well, one of the big things is one of the inherent dangers is recently within the last 5 years uh, there has been a noticeable wild hog population that has kind of sprung up over there, and I don't know how that happened. The Forest Service indicates that that was the result of people bringing those those uh, those hogs in and turning them loose.
Oh,
Um, and you do see that in some places where they will do that, where people will turn them loose. But um, I don't know if that's the actual case or not in that scenario.
oh my gosh! You know what? Actually, when we were out at one of our spots that we do some research in, we've encountered hog hunters. People, these guys that'll have their dogs out there, who will be, I guess they let their hunting dogs loose looking for hogs and stuff, and so it's kind of dangerous for us to be out there because these guys are out there hunting and stuff, and it's way deep, you know, in the woods. But nonetheless, they're out there looking for hogs. I'm wondering, like, well, maybe I wonder if they let the hogs loose themselves too. I don't know. That's wild. Never looked at it like that.
Well, if you look at the way the laws for wild game and hunting are structured, one of the things is that it's actually against the law to do that, and the reason why is because wild hogs, after they're in an area for a certain amount of time, or just the nature of them being in that area, they will become carriers of different diseases and things like that, and it's actually unhealthy to process and eat those critters.
Oh
So
yeah.
you know those are a lot of the reasons why it's actually illegal to do that, is because um, not just that, but also the fact that they destroy cropland and kill other animals that are in the environment just by the things that they do in destroying um, the landscape.
Mm.
Um,
Invasive species out there, huh?
yeah, very invasive.
Huh.
As
Well,
far as
what
far,
is? Oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. What does DNR do about that?
well, actually, if you look at the information that's released now, uh, I know that in the LBL they've had several contracted hunts that have taken place where they've gone in and tried to capture and eradicate these wild hogs. And last year uh, they had a pretty successful rate of eradication, but according to the numbers that are being reported, it wasn't anywhere near enough to basically get rid of them.
Mm.
So there is still a problem.
I wonder how much like how fast they multiply too. I've heard about rabbits, okay, but never pigs.
They're on the same level as rabbits and mice.
Oh,
They
wow.
can, as soon as a sow has a litter,
Hmm.
that I think it that I'm not an expert on swine, uh, but I'm pretty sure that within a week of having that litter, they're ready to breed again and have
Oh, neat.
have another. And that's
Oh
just
my
a
gosh.
It may be less than that. I don't know,
Hmm. Yeah.
but
Oh
it's
my
pretty
gosh.
quick. It's a pretty quick turnaround.
Wow. Well, that's interesting. Kent, thank you so much for that super sticker. I appreciate you. This is Hey Jessica. Hey Kent. Thank you for being here. Wow. Well, that's something that I haven't come across a whole lot of wild pigs out there in the field. Okay, but I know that they're out there, and I've been warned about them, and we've seen the hoof prints and stuff. They kind of got like a hoof foot, kind of. Not really a hoof. I don't know. Pig's feet. I guess you
It's
call them hooves, don't you? They don't have a
yeah.
nail on them, do they?
No, they have hooves.
Okay, it's a hoof. Hooves.
It's very similar to a deer track. The difference in
Hmm.
them is usually when it's pig traffic, it'll
Hmm.
be a whole lot of them, and there'll be like a big area of ground that's torn up in the travel route because they're looking for different things to eat while they're traveling.
Oh yeah, they're a great food source for Bigfoot and Dogman too. I would assume.
I have heard that.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of accounts that involve them and cryptids.
Hmm.
Um, but you know, on the evidence side, I mean, I've seen where people have found what they call kill sites and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
to actually, um, it just makes sense to me that if it's a mobile food source that's roaming around out there, that they would utilize that as a food source.
Hmm. Seems like it'd be easy pickings if there's a whole bunch of them out there
Oh
to
yeah.
go eat. Yeah, I mean we've even seen pictures of big. I've seen pictures of Bigfoot. So I've talked about one extensively. I don't know if it's a Bigfoot or a Dogman. I think it was a Gugway. Is what we decided on that. What was that one where it's holding? It looks like it's holding a dog upside down or something. Maybe that's not a pig. I think it was a dog. I
Are
forgot
you
the
talking
name of
about
that one.
the Beast of Seven Shoots picture?
Seven shoots. That's it. Yes, but I think that's up in like Canada or up north of New York somewhere, right?
Actually, I thought that came out of Minnesota or the Upper Peninsula of Michigan,
I can't remember. I thought it
somewhere
was
up
in. I
there.
thought it was like right above New York or somewhere, like in Canada. I thought, but
I'm
Quebec
not.
or something.
I'm not sure. I would have to look it up.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I bet somebody in our chat knows. I'm sure. We'll look. We'll see if anybody knows. Y'all put it in there. But it's yeah. But we've seen. I've seen several pictures with a Bigfoot or it looked like a Bigfoot carrying something,
Hmm.
like some kind of pig-sized animal, hog or a dog or something like that.
Makes
So
sense.
yeah, so I know they're out there eating them. But yeah, I don't know. I don't. Okay, we're talking about the dark side tonight, right, Mark? We had a little fun conversation before the show tonight, and I got to say, like I haven't. There's a lot of dark sides to the cryptid world. Okay, and chasing Bigfoot, chasing Dogman, all that kind of stuff. And I was joking around today, like my darkest side was, not having a shower for 24 hours and smelling bad. Okay. And having to drive home like that for 5 hours today. Okay. Um, that was my darkest thing that I experienced. But there is a very dark side to this. And
Oh yeah.
honestly, I've been actually kind of worried about being right there at that cemetery and even having clingers on is what I like to call them, and things follow me home and stuff like that. Um, but as far as just something follow me home, that would be the darkest side for me. And I don't
Well,
know what's your take on all this.
well, I mean, it depends on what you're actually doing. I mean, it used to be, back in the day. That makes me sound old, but back in the day,
I'm getting old myself.
back in the day, whenever I was involved in paranormal quote unquote research, uh, ghosts and the supernatural. It was always a thing uh, of being concerned about you know attachments and stuff like that, which is a valid concern. But we get over into the cryptids, And, uh, so long story short, I decided towards the end of my span of time that I was involved in paranormal,
Hmm.
it just got to the point where, I was seeing too much, and I had to take a break. So I was like, I'm going to do, you know, I've got these cryptid encounters. I'm going to look into this more and get away from that, because I mean, I was seeing full body apparitions. I was seeing them
Hmm.
everywhere. And, when you're seeing those things in places that you wouldn't expect to, it, it kind of has an effect on you, because you're not expecting to see a full body apparition while you're at work.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, at
And
work? You had
yeah,
not previously seen one there,
no,
I'm assuming.
no.
Yeah. Oh,
So, and, I mean, as far as it goes, I've experienced a whole lot of different stuff. And, but as far as from the cryptid aspect, once you get involved in it, initially you don't feel like there's a supernatural paranormal side to it. But, the longer that you're involved in it, the more your view changes on it. Because I'll be the first to admit, when I first started out, I was a flesh and blood aper. I
oh
thought
yeah.
I thought the
You're one
big
of those. I was
I,
too when I first started. That was a long time ago.
hmm I thought Bigfoot was an undiscovered relict hominid, and that was it, cut and dried.
Oh yeah.
But through the years, the experiences that I had, um, changed and reshaped my viewpoint on that, because of the frequency of strangeness that I encountered through the years. I've seen a lot of weird stuff, on a whole lot of different levels. And, um, to say that, there's not a supernatural aspect to them is first off, any researcher that, says that they don't believe in that, or that it's woo and they don't follow the woo camp. Either one, they haven't been researching very long, or two, they're in denial.
I know. That's what I always assume. I'm like, well, y'all just hadn't been in it long enough. Or you hadn't been out in the field like I have. Okay, that's what I just assume sometimes. And I'm not dissing on anybody that doesn't believe in the supernatural aspect of Bigfoot. Okay. But if you're watching my show, you're probably fully aware there's probably a supernatural element. We call it the X factor on my research teams. They have an X factor about them. A lot of this does. We were sitting around, I was talking to Harley last night, Harley Owens. He's been on the show. Um, and Bigfoot reports and data. Okay, and we were talking about. I guess a lot of us were talking actually, and we're just discussing like it's all connected. There's so many other things to it. It's not just Bigfoot. It's not just Dogman. It's UFOs and portals, and you get into it out there. We're not just out there having to watch our backs for Bigfoot activity and listening to owls that or sound like they're 900 pounds out there like we did last
Mhm.
night. We had some weird owls last night trying to trick us and stuff. It was weird. It was the weirdest thing. It was the weirdest owl experience I ever had last night. We'll talk about it after the guys get out of the woods, and we can talk about it. I'll tell you all about it more. But it was really weird, and it's more to it than that, because you got to watch out for not only these cryptids, these flesh and bone Bigfoots out there, but they've got some supernatural elements to it, and we don't want to go missing or end up in a portal, and it's just tricky. It's tricky out there.
Well, that's the interesting thing about it, because the progression of my research was, I went from researching UFOs and aliens to the paranormal, and then ended up in the cryptozoology, Bigfoot, Dogman area. And, my experiences with the UFO alien aspect and my experiences with the supernatural, paranormal, and Bigfoot and Dogman, you know, through the years, I was not able until within the last 5 years to formulate a connection between those things because of the way that those things presented themselves. And, I'll be the first to admit that there is a connection and they are related. And, you can't have one without the other, I guess is the bottom line, because, you got Bigfoot that hang out in graveyards. You got Dogman that hang out in graveyards. Why are they doing that? And it's a big question, because we don't really understand. I mean, yeah, we can formulate a hypothesis on what that might be, but no one really has the answer. It's all conjecture and speculation, and it just makes it interesting. But I guess the whole reason why I'm mentioning all this is because as I was going through those different stages, I was not able to see the connection until within the last 5 years.
Wow. Well, there's so much going on at the LBL, and I've heard a lot of testimony from people out there, and it even includes some of the testimony includes Bigfoot and Dogman like seen together. I have never experienced that before, but we do like this weekend. Okay, um, we actually found what appeared to be a large canine track out there where we were and it's not it wasn't like in the same location, but it was in the same, like, I'm going to say 10 acres. Let's say 10 acres or so. I don't know. It was a lot. We covered a lot of ground. Okay. Let's say 5 to 10 acres or something like that. And, what looked like a canine track, a big one, and big, like 20 plus inch Bigfoot tracks out there with it. Okay. And so I'm not saying that, I don't know. I mean, is that common up there? Do you hear a lot about that? Like where I know they're in the same environment, but do they hang out together, you think? What's your thought?
Well, my thought on that is, oh Lord, you're asking me what my thought on it is. So I can take you to a place right now. I know that there are Bigfoot and Dogman in that location. It's a spread of land. It's about 1,125 acres. It used to be a hunting club, but it was sold to a private owner. When that property was a hunting club, um, there is when I learned what actually resided on that property, and never did I encounter. Um, it was either one or the other. They were never in the same place. They never, to my knowledge, worked together. So really, the only thing I can speak of is my experience. So and then on top of that, I've been in the LBL. I've seen Bigfoot in the LBL. You know, never have seen a dog man in there with those Bigfoot. So I don't know. It just makes it kind of interesting, and I'm trying not to go too far off in the darkness.
Okay. Well, can I ask you a question about your
Sure.
Bigfoot experience? Because I've mainly talked to you about your Dogman experience at the LBL, but there's just as many, if not more, Bigfoot encounters out there, I guess. But we don't hear about those. I never hear about the Bigfoot encounters out there. I just hear about Dogman. What was your Bigfoot encounter like? Was it at the LBL?
Which one?
You tell me. I don't know. Do you have, or have they all been at the Land Between the Lakes, or have they been at other places?
So it's been a mix. I've had experiences inside and outside of the LBL. Um, one of my actual, I call it my second encounter, actually took place um, on a military installation, which is not far from here. And that location is actually not far from the LBL. And then, through the years, I've had encounters and sightings inside and outside. So, interestingly, um, what's weird about it is, I've so there's this, I guess I'll just start by sharing one of the sightings that I had in this one location. So we went to this location during an outing with a group that I was involved with who, uh, so anyways, we went to this location and there's a graveyard on the right hand side of the road. It's a small cemetery. And the uh, other side of the road, there's a big hill that goes up and it's quite tall. Well, th- when we pulled up at this location, we just kind of stopped in the middle of the road, and the vehicle behind me, they had a dog in the vehicle with them, but they did not get the dog out of the vehicle. So this Bigfoot up on top of the hill was throwing black walnuts at this truck in the bed of the truck to try to get the dog to come out of the vehicle, and was doing that. Then sometime later, we had another event that we went to, and we went by this same location. And as we were coming up to the location, when the headlights came around the curve, I saw the Bigfoot coming down the side of the hill into a flat area, because the person that was leading uh, that expedition, if you will, had did some calls, and it was actually leaving the hilltop in the direction of those calls, and we happened to catch it as we were going around the curve coming down off the hill. So it's kind of an interesting scenario, even though we were in the wrong location when we initially stopped and did the calls. Some of us were still able to see that particular Bigfoot at the location we were supposed to stop at. Then there's the one that just baffles me. I don't understand this um, at all. So we had this, the big thing is you have these groups that come down to the LBL and they'll pick out a campground, or they'll pick a location and they'll have these meet and greets and stuff like that, which is all fine and dandy. Um, so I went over there to attend one of these, and while I was there that night after sunset, they built this big fire, and they had this big circle that they had everybody around the fire pit, and they had somebody doing, speaking about different things, and kind of standing around there listening to them. Well, at the end of the campground where the road forks, there's a tree that is in the center of that fork, and there is I've checked it several times. I've checked it multiple times through the years. But I was standing there, and there was a gentleman that had stepped over, and he was like, "Hey man, why are you hanging out over here in the shadows?" I said, "Well, I'm hanging out over here in the shadows up next to this tree because I'm keeping the light out of my eyes so I can see these Bigfoot that are standing down here at the fork."
Oh my.
So
Surprise.
there were at least two that were standing down there watching the group and listening to the storytellers. Well, I tell this guy this, and he didn't even look down there, and he was just like, "Oh, okay," and he just went back to the storytelling thing, and I'm like, "What is wrong with this dude?" He's
Maybe he
down here.
thought he thought you were crazy. Probably.
I don't know, but I'm standing there, and now when it would turn its head a certain direction, I could see, you could see one, two eyes,
Oh
and
yeah.
it would alternate as it was, turning its head.
Hmm.
And this thing's eyes were as big around as road reflectors or driveway reflectors. That's how big this thing's
Wow.
eyes were,
Oh my
and
gosh.
pretty big. So I've tried to figure out why that guy was just, I don't know, just seemed totally okay and just went on about his business.
Oh
You
my
know,
gosh.
I mean, that's the big thing. You're there, to which, I mean, granted, some people don't come there to have an experience, but I mean, that's the thing, is people want to come in there to have some kind of experience, and it was a relatively peaceful experience, and it just kind of baffles me that the guy was just disinterested.
Well, some people want to keep their head in the sand, kind of like an ostrich. Isn't that an ostrich that does that? Some
Yeah.
kind of animal, like emu or something.
Hmm.
You just want to keep your head in the sand. They don't want to know. They don't want to know there's Bigfoots out there. And a lot of people don't even believe in it anyways until they have an encounter. Wow.
Oh yeah. So
So that was your first experience with Bigfoot, or was that just one? I mean, I know it was just one.
that was just one.
Yeah. Okay. You said that was near the military base, right? So
No,
that was
no,
not the
no, 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 no,
LBL.
no. No, that story I have not told
Oh, okay. Oh,
because
that's right.
that
Okay.
story that story has been earmarked for a book that
That's right. I remember that.
somebody else is going to be putting out.
So we can't even talk about it.
Well, I can talk about it,
Yeah.
but you know, basically, I'll just give the condensed version of it. So I watched the Bigfoot run through a fairly open area of woods,
Hmm.
trees, and this thing was extremely fast, and it had uh, its hair was the color of an Irish setter,
Oh,
and this thing looked like it was
what?
clean. It looked clean,
Shiny? Like it wears
shiny.
like it shampooed its hair?
I'm not even kidding.
So you're telling me these Bigfoots have better hair than us? I mean, I was pretty gross today, but today I'm not gonna lie, we got dumped. The rain just dumped on us last night, and we didn't have showers and stuff out there. You know what I mean?
Mm,
We were in the mud. I was covered, and I fell down. I did fall down last night too. Okay,
mm,
full disclosure, we all fell down. Okay, there was
yeah.
a hill we just couldn't get around falling down it, and it was pure mud. And yes, I don't even care. I was walking around with mud on my butt all night. I don't care. Okay, it was fun. We can't worry about that. Got to keep going. Okay, but nonetheless, so Bigfoots are out there looking. How do they keep their hair so shiny, and pretty?
I have
My hair looked
no
gross today.
I have no idea. The only thing I can surmise from that experience that made it more interesting is the part of the story that I'm not telling, and that's going to be released in that book,
Okay,
if and when it comes out,
okay, okay.
which
Well, go
I
ahead.
have no control over.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. Well, You had mentioned that the Bigfoot sighting was near a military base, like some kind of military installment. That happens a lot. I mean, there's so many cryptid sightings around cemeteries and military bases. Those are like two of the main places you hear about cryptid sightings, and the side of the road. Okay, the side of the road, chasing people in their cars, following people, crossing the road, peeking out from the side of the road, all that kind of stuff. I mean, those are some of the main spots, and our national parks.
Well, that's just like I've got an extremely creepy story that and this one has been what's the best word for me to use? Um, it's been retold many times by certain individuals, and it naturally I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus. That's not anything productive. But it kind of goes along with the topic of the show, right? You know, you get out there and you have these experiences, and you do this research and stuff, and I think it's valuable for people that are not researchers, or that may be interested in becoming a researcher, to understand what they're really getting into when they get into this topic area. Because I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I've seen a whole lot of stuff. I've met I didn't get in, like I've said before, I didn't get into this to research and have experiences with people. I got into it to understand my experiences that I was having. But through time, I learned that in the whole cogs of the machine, um, you you get into the scenario where it becomes a study on personalities and personality disorders and different people, and
Oh my gosh, you're not talking about Bigfoot anymore, are you?
no, I'm talking about people.
That's actually true. That actually is true. I can agree with that. That's funny.
And then to make things even worse is, you've got I said I wasn't going to mention any names earlier, but I'm going to mention this one.
Okay.
You've got the Rick Dyers of the world that
Okay.
are out there, trying to perpetrate a fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And it that complicates things, staging, posing evidence, misleading people, and it
Oh
just
yeah.
makes it a whole lot more difficult than it should be. So
Yeah.
anyways, I forget where I was even going with that.
Well, that's true. Well, it's just talking about the personality types, and getting into the cryptid world and dealing with this. And I know you're kind of a lone wolf when it comes down to it a lot of times too, because you go out. You said that you do some of this research by yourself, and I prefer to go. I do go out sometimes. I usually have my kid and my dog with me. Okay, and that's not real Bigfoot research, because you can't take your dog out there for that, y'all. You just can't. Sorry, or your kid. But I get out in the woods a lot. Okay, I do get out in the woods a lot, and when I go out in the field, I do have a lot of people with me. But see, that's why I have these teams that I'm on, especially my I don't say my old teams. We all meld together very well. We mesh real well together, and we're kind of, I'm not gonna say we're all stuck up. We don't let people in our groups. You know what I mean? But we're kind of like, we work well as a team, and we don't need extra people coming in. You know what I mean? And so, but when you go out in the field and you got like new people with you, and like, sometimes like let's say for instance this weekend, there are a lot of people that were invited I had never met before. Not a lot, couple, people I never met and stuff. And so it's just, it is what it is. Everybody was really super nice, and we got lucky. Everybody's really cool. Okay. But that's something that you do have to contend with when you're out there doing the cryptid research. You got to go out with people you trust. Okay. That's what I always say.
Yeah.
Keep it 100. Okay. With the people you take out there, keep it 100. Yeah, with
So
all the people. Make sure you can trust them.
so I, I recalled why I was bringing all that up. So you've got these people that'll take your information and use it for their own benefit in some cases. And um, not saying everybody's like that, but it's important for us to recognize that there are people out there that like that. And this particular story that I'm going to share is a story that has been done that way by a lot of well, several different people, or a couple of different people. Let me just put it like that. Um, Even to within the last year, this story has been rehashed by one particular person. But nonetheless, um, so when I was in the military, I went through basic training at Fort Leonard Wood. And towards the end of basic training, part of the training is, you got to go out on a road march, X number of miles, and then you have to, they call it bivouac, which is basically just camping.
That's what we
Um,
do.
yeah.
I bivouac. I like doing that. I go hammock camping, dude. That's kind of similar.
So,
It's bivouacking. Where you hike in.
mhm. So that I can paint this picture so people get the full understanding of what happened. So in 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 group, our group was a whole, I would say probably a whole battalion's worth of people. That's more than 100 people. So we marched into this area. We get there, and that first night, we got there right as it was getting dark. So they tell us to set up our tents and blah blah blah. So we do that. We get ready to bed down. We do the things that we're supposed to do before we do that, and then we bed down. Well, I'm inside my tent and I'm out cold because like I was tired, you know. So during the night, in the middle of the night, I don't know what time it was because we didn't have watches or any of that stuff. No cell phones.
You had to kind of go by the moon, where the moon and the sun were located.
Yeah, it was
Look,
it was
watch
it
for
was old
shadows.
school.
Is that how
It
you
was old school.
tell your
Yeah,
time?
we were doing it the old school way.
Go stick a stone in the ground. See where the sun hits it and the shadow casts.
Well, this was in the middle of the night. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Dang.
I remember I wake up and I'm just laying there and I'm trying to go back to sleep. And I got this weird feeling that I could not shake. And I was like, something is not right. I didn't know what wasn't right, but I knew that something was not right. So I the way that you enter your pup tent, there's a couple of ways you can do it. But I was actually sleeping on my stomach in this tent. So when I came out of it backwards, feet first, and I was kind of like in a squatted position, and then I stood up. Well, when I stood up, I'm face to face. Now, mind you, there are like 100 people spread out in this area that I'm in that are in their pup tents.
Okay. Oh
And
my
when I
gosh.
when I stand up, I am face to face, like really, really close to, I could have reached out and smacked whoever this was. And I'm face to face with what I think is another soldier. And I'm looking at him and they didn't move, and they're just standing there. And real softly, I whisper, "What are you doing?" Nothing.
Oh,
No answer, no movement, no nothing. They're just standing there. So I'm standing there looking at what I'm thinking, and I'm thinking to myself, if he don't do something, I'm fixing to bulldog this dude, because this is creepy, weird, So
that is really weird. How
yeah,
can I ask you? How tall was this person?
it was about my height.
Hmm. Okay.
So I'm standing there and I'm thinking, well, maybe they didn't hear me. So
Talk louder.
so I say it again, this time a little bit louder. What are you doing? And they're just standing there and they're not moving. And I'm thinking, I'm fixing to grab this dude and
What are
DDT him
you
or
doing
something,
here? What are
you know.
you doing?
So I'm standing there
You said
looking
DDT him.
at yeah.
You're on clothesline this dude. Gotta get
So
a running start for that.
I'm standing there looking at him, and all of a sudden, from behind me on the road, I hear the sound of boots coming down the road. And they're kind of close, they had to have been in order for me to hear them. So I turn and I look, and I see that it's another company or battalion that's marching into that area for their bivouac. And I'm like, okay, nothing to be worried with. So when I turned back, whatever or whoever this was gone. There was no sound. There was no movement. There was no tree for this person to get behind. So the first thing I want to clarify is I'm not saying that this was not a person or that it was a cryptid or anything like that. I'm just relating what actually happened.
Wow.
So it
Creepy.
was extremely creepy, weird. And if the dude hadn't have did something or moved or said something, he probably would have got bulldogged out there. I would have woke everybody up. I guarantee you that.
Maybe he just needed a one of those pup tents. He wanted inside your tent. I'm just kidding. Your little one man tent, that wouldn't have been very, very comfortable.
No.
Just saying. That's weird though. I mean, we could go down the list of all the possibilities of what that could have been, including the black-eyed children. It could have been a black-eyed kid or something. But I don't know. That just sounds really odd for them not to say anything. I mean, maybe it was somebody sleepwalking too. But
I mean,
you couldn't see.
Yeah, I mean, there and that night there was a lot of moonlight. And another thing I want to clarify: the area that we were in, there were dry leaves everywhere. It hadn't rained in a while. So if they'd have walked away or ran away or whatever, I would have heard them. So it was just weird. So, like I said, I'm not trying to say that it's anything or was anything. I'm just, relating how weird it was.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I get a lot of stories from my friends who I have a lot of my Bigfooting friends, especially, are, and it's not just Bigfoot now. We investigate everything, but a lot of my cryptid field research friends are all former military of some branch of some sort, and a lot of them have a lot of really creepy stories. A lot of out in places like Fort Stewart and stuff, encountering, or Fort Benning in Georgia. I live in Georgia, okay, and a lot of those guys live in Georgia too, or have been stationed in Georgia. We got Long Island Bigfoot up in this chat tonight. What's up, LIB? He was stationed down at Fort Benning at some point down in Columbus. That's near the Troop Herd Corridor, y'all, where we do some of our research and have lots of missing persons and stuff down there. But they talk about coming face to face with Bigfoots out in the field when they're doing, I don't know, what do you call them, drills or something? I don't know. Out in the middle, they take all the guys out in the middle of the forest, and they have to do whatever they do out there. They're practice war. They're war practice. Yeah. Gosh, I don't even know what you call that. But when they're out there doing drills and stuff, and probably shooting practice and whatnot, I mean, they come face to face with Bigfoot sometimes.
It's called a field training exercise.
Field training exercises. War training. Yeah, whatever. Training for battle. I mean, training to battle Bigfoot out there, I guess. I mean, I've been told that some soldiers are taught to shoot above the heads. Okay, and I'm assuming that's in case they encounter giants out in the field. So I don't know. I think our military is fully aware of cryptids. What do you think?
I would say that they are.
Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
think so?
divert that back to that original military installation story. I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure that they are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, without spoiling that story for the people that are gonna purchase that book later on, there is some rather interesting stuff about that story.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Amy says absolutely. Yeah, I think our military works with them. That's just what I
Oh
think.
yeah.
I don't know though. I don't know for sure, but that's just with all this research we've done, and all these remote viewing targets, and all these crazy things that go on around the world. Um, I don't doubt it. I definitely don't doubt it. And I don't know. One of the dark. We're talking about dark sides. The dark side of chasing Bigfoot and Dogman and doing all this cryptid research. Well, it's also the government coming after us, right? Wouldn't you say that's actually kind of dark and a little bit worrisome when it comes to this? Like, I don't worry about it. I don't care. It is what it is. Um, I've gotten proverbial knocks on my door, at least one. Okay. But when it came, but see, that's remote viewing and remote viewing stuff. That's a little bit, I shouldn't have been remote viewing, I guess, according to some people. Um, but people say they get followed around, and vans pull up. My crew, they usually pull up in a van. Okay. But they're not like, they're doing it for fun. Okay. Um, okay. So, but anyways, but you see these black vans pull up and like paramilitary guys hopping out of it. I'm not saying
Well,
we do that,
I've heard
but we
of
might.
instances like that taking place. Um,
Yeah.
I've only had one instance where there was actually somebody that showed up here, and you know after I let it be known that I was gonna my mode of operating going forward was gonna be capture the flag. They kind of backed off on that.
Well, that's pretty interesting. We gotta, you know, I've had people on my show before that talk about how they go out, and I know that they are. I don't know for a fact, but they've told me. Okay, I can only say what people have told me. I don't go digging into these people, y'all. Especially people I've had on my shows in the past and stuff. And but I've had people that claim that they've got people that are law enforcement, and they go in these like dogman teams, and they gear up, and I don't know what they're doing out there. But anyways, uh,
Well, I
and
I
it's almost like they're getting paid to do it or something. I mean, I don't know. People claim that they're hunting dogmen like for our government and stuff out there, or some kind of agency.
well, I'm not going to say that that doesn't happen because I've actually seen an instance of that taking place myself
You have
firsthand.
at the LBL.
Near it, not in it,
Okay.
but
Oh. Oh, I think we talked about that. It's probably in private. I talked to you about it, I think. But
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So to not throw anybody under the bus, so just be aware. I think it's important that people be aware, whether you're a researcher or just an interested party, that not everybody in the Bigfoot community is your friend, first and foremost. And some of these people are not who they portray themselves to be, um, in a lot of different ways than
Yeah.
just you know s- you can look at that from a lot of different angles.
Oh,
You
damn. You went there. That's the truth, though.
I
You're
mean,
not lying.
you could say, well, you know, one thing that I learned in my early days of doing this research, there was a gentleman by the name of Jim Keegan. I know a lot of the people that are in the community today, probably only the old timers would remember him. but um, he and I had some conversations about the importance of honesty and integrity as it comes to play with this subject. And even doing things in jest can affect your integrity. And I mean, I'll be the first to admit I like to laugh and cut up and have a good time, but there are things that it's acceptable to do that with and things that are not. Um, and it can have a negative effect on your credibility when it comes to being in the position to release information. Um, so yeah, it gets kind of interesting.
It does. I get a lot of people being a podcaster. I guess you can call it what I do. I don't know. I guess I thought I did live shows. I didn't realize I was a podcaster. Okay, but I guess that's what I am now. But doing what I do and being a field researcher, I get a lot of people that contact me and want to tell me stuff. And I got to take it all with a grain of salt because you can't. Why would people want to give me the inside information, this stuff that's so super secret and important and stuff? And I'll take it. I love getting it. Y'all keep it coming, okay? Everybody keep it coming out there, but you have to be really discerning about it because it's like, well, I don't know why am I getting this kind of information? Do you know what I mean? And so I just have to be selective as to like what especially if I talk about something on air or whatever, when it comes to that. I try not to too much. But I mean, I've got people that I believe could be real insiders that have a lot of good information. They do tell me stuff sometimes, but I've also been in it long enough, Mark, to know, and I've gotten to know people, and I know that I network a lot, okay, and I know people from all over the world that do cryptid research, and I don't even want to go there tonight. This is so terrible. I don't want to talk about this, but it's like there are people that I do believe that are put in, places with, platforms and stuff that aren't putting out real good information. Okay, that's all. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Well, that's the
It's
that's the thing that
deceptive.
yeah, that's the thing that we run
Yeah.
into. It doesn't matter whether
God,
you're in the UFO
I
community or
hate that I
the
had to say that.
paranormal community
Mm,
or the Bigfoot community or the
yeah.
Dogman people or whatever. You're gonna run into that, and the whole reason why, in a nutshell, is because there's this concerted effort for a lot of people say they don't understand or know why the government or these organizations or these people would go to such great lengths to try to to try to keep these topics suppressed.
Hmm.
If one of the big things that I believe in is everything, there's nothing new under the sun. Everything that all the answers are there. You just have to be able to look, be willing to look for them and willing to accept them. And
You have to be willing to go out and chase the truth too about stuff,
yeah,
and that's why I really like doing these shows and stuff because I'm out there in the field. You are too. We're out there in the field. We got the firsthand knowledge of it. I waited 10 years. I never meant to go public with what I do, and so I kind of know. I kind of know what's going on. The more I know, I think I know what's going on. The less I know, but it's good to have a good base, a good footing in the cryptid world, and to be a part of it for so long and not talk about it with anybody publicly. And so I feel like it's good I've got an eye for like who knows what's really up and who doesn't. I'm
well,
just saying,
even with that,
I have a good eye for it now.
even with that, I would be careful with that,
Yeah,
because I mean, you were talking about people giving you information. I
yeah.
think it's equally important to realize that there are people out there that are looking to siphon information
Oh yeah,
from you or
yes.
anyone else for whatever reason that they have on their agenda. So I mean that does happen as well. So
Oh,
I think
trust me,
it's
I know. I've had someone from every community to attempt to destroy me. It's like a fun little game now. Like I used to get upset about it. Now I don't. I think it's funny.
well,
To try to pick me apart and stuff when it comes to
yeah,
the cryptid stuff, and that's why I keep a lot of things to my chest still, as far as my teams go and everything, you never tell everybody everything, when
oh
it
yeah,
comes to stuff. But I mean, but I put out a lot of good information to the public, and we talk about it. It's like even tonight, like I'm not going to discuss my guys out in the field and like where they're at. I'm definitely not going to say exactly where they're at, but like what they're doing, because that's it would affect the research. People don't need to know where those guys are at. I shouldn't even really be talking about it at all. And out of the integrity of everybody being out, the team being out there this weekend and stuff. But
well
you have to be careful about that kind of stuff.
oh yeah, well the
Hmm.
definite thing about it is like for example, and I know we've had this conversation before where we'll be in contact and you'll ask, have you been to the field lately?
Yeah, because
And
you're right there. Like you're my go to when it comes to the land between the lakes, Mark.
well,
Okay.
here's the reality of that. You have to understand that when you pick the phone up and you text somebody, you know, hey, I'm going to the field, or I'm going to such and such location, you know. So I guess what I'm trying to say, and I hope you're not put off by this, because sometimes I might not be 100% honest
What,
with
to me?
yeah with
Mark,
that,
I already knew. I could tell. No, I'm
because
just kidding.
because because of the simple fact that in this, there is danger in communicating certain information.
That's right. On your
and
phone, you don't know who's listening, first of all.
and those are things to consider, because I mean, it's just the
Oh,
reality of it.
that's right. That's right. Well, Ricardo says government uses spies to spy on researchers, so be careful. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that.
Well, we had an incident
Yeah.
where um we had gone over. There was a group that had come up to the LBL, and they were having a camp out, and they invited some of our group, and we went over there. And while we were there, there were three guys that came in. It was kind of interesting the way that this went down. So it was a Hispanic guy, a black guy, and a rednecky, skinny, lanky white guy that had a PBR belt buckle on. Just a
Oh, I
redneck as he
like
could be.
that. I want one of those. I want a belt. I want to build up PBR. Okay, interesting. Okay, go.
So now these guys were
Do
in the mil-
tell.
they were in the military,
Okay.
and they had come over there to camp out. Before we left, yeah, before we left, the PBR guy, the other two guys left once they realized they would not be able to integrate themselves into our group.
Oh,
And they left redneck guy there
because he
because,
could integrate better.
yeah,
Okay.
before it was done, all
He
said and
fit in with
done,
y'all. Wait, so out of all those guys, the PBR guy fit in best with y'all.
yeah.
I'll be. That's funny.
So before it was all said and done,
Jeez.
he was actually going out on, you know, research
Yeah. That's why I
with
said no
with
new
the group.
friends. We don't need no new friends. That's why my teams are like no new. Not they don't say no new friends. That's me saying that. Okay, but it kind of boils down to like you got to be vetted and
Oh
get
yeah.
to know people before you can go out and do what we like getting our real research team and stuff and go out with us. Yeah, on
Well,
my original teams, y'all is what I'm saying. Okay,
mhm.
so yeah,
Well,
I get it.
when he got there,
Infiltrators.
I had a I had a little conversation with the guy, and just basically asked him what unit he was in, this, that, and the other. Try to get a line on him, and it could be legit, but it just seemed too coincidental to me. And what was further interesting about it is at that time there was a military intelligence unit that had just moved to that installation, and it was just kind of interesting timing. Not saying he was there to spy on us, but it was interesting.
Oh, he was totally there to spy on you for sure. That's yeah. Well, did you go with you went with your gut, right? I always tell
Yeah.
everybody to go with your gut. If something feels off, it's off. And that includes like when you have people that are, new friends and people that kind of show up out of the blue and stuff. And, just be aware. Be aware. And yeah. When it comes to the cryptid field research, because that's why to me it feels like that's why there's such a stigma to like Bigfooting and things like that. It's like everybody, I'm gonna say like the media or whoever, they want us to paint us all as like a bunch of country bumpkins. Okay, country bumpkins is a good term, and that's why that guy, they're like, all right, we're gonna send the guy, we gotta put on get your Dale Earnhardt shirt. Okay, put on your Dale Earnhardt shirt, tuck it in with your PBR belt buckle, and put on your mesh cap, and go over there with your raise hell and praise Dale hat. Okay, and yeah, I mean, I totally listen. I grew up, I love NASCAR. I used to race cars and stuff. I'd be like, okay, cool, but I'd look at him with the side eye. I'd be like, what are you doing here? Okay, yeah, who sent you? Because the point of what I was going to say is like, we're portrayed as being that stereotype. Okay, and it's kind of like to keep it ongoing, like as though like we're not smart and we're crazy, and we must be drinking natty lights on stuff, and we just see things out there, and that's what the general public, that's what they want the general public to think we do out there and who we are, and it's kind of yeah, and so maybe infiltrators are sent in to keep that going and to stereotype us a little more and all that kind of stuff. And that's why they put those kind of people on the news, and you know what I mean? But yeah, and to get intelligence and to find out what we're doing, because these things are real. And I think the government already knows that they're real. This is coming from me. This is my opinions. This is for entertainment purposes only tonight, y'all. But it's like they already know they exist. They want to know what we know about it. And who are we going to tell about it? Okay, like who's got the platforms? Who's got the loudest mouth? Who's going to be out there talking? Who's out there doing the boots on the ground work and then going on a podcast and talking about it? Oh, oops.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, one of my earlier incidents that I had happen. So just as an example, now what I'm fixing to relate is 100% true. It happened the way that I'm fixing to relate it. But I don't generally share this publicly a whole lot because of the nature of what it is. So once I share it, you'll understand why. So I had some frenemies, frenemies, who were coming up to the LBL, and they wanted to meet over there and do a little research one weekend.
We got the tea right now, huh?
Mm-hmm.
He's dishing the tea out, y'all.
So, ended up that weekend I had to work. So I was at work and they called me while I was at work, and I took their call, and they were like, "Hey, we're at such and such location, and we wanted to know if you would be free to meet over there tonight and do some looking around." I was like, "Yeah." I said, "I don't get off work until 9:30, 10 o'clock, but I'd be happy to come over and meet you guys and go looking around." So ended up, I got off work, I came home, I got my stuff, I left, I went over there, and I'm going to condense this a whole lot. So while I was over there, before I met up with them, I had something very weird cross in front of in front of my vehicle on the road. At that time, I had no inclination to anything about this. Did not fit any description of any animal that I've ever heard of or seen before. It was very bizarre. So I met up with them after that. We went and looked around to about 1:30 in the morning, and I came home and I called up one of my research buddies in New York, and I was like, "Hey man, I just had this experience and I saw this and I don't know what it was." So I went through the description. I told him basically what happened, what I saw, and um, he was very adamant that I had seen a young or baby Bigfoot. And I was like, "I don't think so. I've never seen anything like this before. It was unnatural the way that this thing moved." And he was like, "Dude, I'm telling you, you saw a baby Bigfoot."
The power of suggestion. Was he
So
trying to make you think you saw a Bigfoot?
no, no, no.
Okay.
He's just based off the description that I gave him.
Okay. I
So
was trying to put it in another direction then. Sorry. Go ahead.
so n- yeah, you're not going to guess where I'm going to end up with this. So I told him basically that I was going to think on it and try to, figure out what it was. So the next day I get up. That afternoon I go to work. I get off work and I'm coming home. So I pull in the road that I live on and I come down. And when I turn into the driveway, my headlights sweep across the house next door and they hit the backyard behind the house next door. And then they straighten up into my driveway. So as my headlights are sweeping over, there's a dude standing at the edge of the tree line behind the house next door, and he's dressed in black
Whoa.
tactical gear, head to
Uh-oh.
toe, ski mask.
Ski mask.
Yeah, he was covered head to toe. I could not tell who he was. All I could tell is he had on military gear, some kind of vest, that kind of stuff.
Firearm?
I'm assuming, as when I saw him, I just naturally assumed that he was there, not to be friends. So at that time, being that I was going to and from work, I wasn't carrying at that particular night. So my first response was I come in the house, check on everybody in the house, get my stuff and go back outside, right? So I come in, check on everybody in the house, I get my stuff and I go back outside. Whoever it was gone. So um
Can I
then
ask a
I was
question? Can
sure.
I ask a question real quick? Which way was his gun pointed? What was he pointing it at?
Oh, it
Did he
was
have?
if he had one, it was like he was
Oh,
just standing there
okay.
pointing down. So
Okay.
so now where mine was pointed at was a different story. I wasn't playing.
I wouldn't be either if that was outside my house.
Yeah. So my next response was, okay, did this person come into my house? Because obviously he wasn't there to visit the neighbor, and he was very. I just got the impression that he wanted me to be able to see him, and to let me know that he was there. So I came back in the house, and I was looking around. Nothing was out of place. Nothing was moved. And I went to the side door on that overlooks the fenced-in dog yard, and I grabbed the doorknob to check and make sure it was locked. And when I grabbed it, it was still locked. But when I grabbed it, I guess I pulled it just right, and it just came wide open like it had been carded.
Oh.
So,
Uh-oh.
and I know that I had, because that's a big thing. That's a big thing here.
Yeah.
I make sure that the doors are locked,
Yeah, me too. I'm a lock checker.
not for
Okay.
my protection,
Yeah.
but for the
Well,
protection of everybody outside.
oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm hyper vigilant when it comes to the safety aspect of my life. And I always have been. I've been forced to be that way, actually. And boy, I tell you, somebody creeping around the house like that and they got on a ski mask. You didn't call the cops or anything? Just asking.
I
Just
don't
asking
believe in
for a
call.
friend.
I don't
Yeah, I
believe
know.
in calling the law around here.
I know, me too. I know. I'm the same unless I have to. Unless I have to. It just depends. Depends on I go with my gut.
I got
I
a,
go with my
I
gut.
got a, I got a saying: if you break in, you will break out.
Oh my gosh. That's wild.
Like I
Yeah.
said, the doors are not locked for my protection; they're locked for everybody else's.
Yeah.
You know,
So
and I'm
that's
not,
odd.
I'm not
that-
trying to say I'm a badass or anything like that or whatever. But
That's your home. You have a
yeah,
right to be that way.
you break into my house, you're going to be looking for an exit.
Okay, well, this was while you were in the midst of doing all the cryptid research. You're at a hotspot hub right there, the LBL, and you've experienced some things. And
Yeah,
I mean, do you think that it could have been related to your knowledge of what you know about that
I
place?
think it was related to that phone call I had the night before, where I was trying to determine what it was that I saw.
Mm, oh man, I always feel like somebody's listening in. I mean,
Oh yeah,
I was thinking about that song, Michael Jackson song. I always feel like somebody's watching me. It's actually not Michael Jackson; it's somebody else, but he's got a little chorus in it, right? Um,
well, you got the police. Every breath you take, every step you make, I'll be
I'll
watching
be
you.
watching you. Yeah. Oh, that's odd. Is that the name of the band that sings that?
The
Man, what a
police, yeah,
coincidence! What a
yeah,
coincidence!
yeah. And that's just the one
Wow.
that pops up to the top of my mind off the bat.
Okay. Well, how about wow? Okay, this is actually kind of reminiscent, and I know you're not finished your story, but I just want to mention this real quick while I'm thinking about it. People have reported Bigfoot sightings to, let's just say, the BFRO or something, or somebody that works for the BFRO or the head of it or something, and they do it like in confidence. And this is what I've been told, that there have been a few people, couple people for sure, that have reported their Bigfoot sightings, and to them, and the next thing they know, they've got black helicopters flying over their house. You
I had it happen to me.
you did?
Hmm.
Oh my.
So,
Okay, well, you heard it here first, y'all. I
so
mean, I think you heard it here first. I don't know. I'm hearing it here first.
I don't, I don't normally share this because of the nature of what it is. And like I said, I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus, but I mean, if you're involved in that kind of activity, then you kind of deserve it in my book. And some may say that, um, I deserved what happened or whatever. So, and let this be some wisdom along the way. So, without calling names, so I have a friend, and if you or yeah, a friend, I'll use that word. He's not a friend of me yet.
Oh man.
So I have a friend
We're
who,
gonna have a whole lot of people sighing in this episode tonight. You know that, right? Everybody's gonna think we're talking about them, y'all. I promise you. If you're in this chat right now, I'm not talking about you. Okay, I saw that, Caleb. I'm not talking about you. Okay, definitely not talking about you. No, I'm not talking about you.
well, the only thing I have to say, the only thing that I can
Freya says
possibly
that
say,
she agrees. Okay,
the
sorry,
only
Mark.
thing that I can say is this: if it fits, strap that sucker on.
You crazy. You
I mean,
crazy.
I don't operate in the realm of, I mean, look, the reality of it is this, nobody's perfect, you know, for whatever reason, some people deem it necessary to try to elevate themselves and put themselves in the shoes of the expert or wear that tag for whatever reason. And they want to be an authority on the subject and they want to squash down everybody else that's around them. And that's all fine and dandy. If they want to have a competitive level in this subject area, then they need to. I mean, the reality of it is this: there's too many instances, and I'm probably gonna hurt some feelings with what I'm fixing to say, but I can't help it. I'm not here to tickle your ear and tell you of you know. I'm not here to whisper sweet nothings and all that good stuff. I'm here to tell you the truth. And if you can't deal with the truth, then that's your problem, not mine, because I can deal with the truth. And the bottom line is this, you know, you have these people that go on these podcasts and it's, I mean, really look at it. Who is putting out, don't poke the bear, who's really putting out, or who has really put out anything new in the last 10 years?
What do you mean by new? What do you mean by new? Oh, damn, Mark.
I mean,
You talking about especially
seriously.
about the well in regard. Let's take the LBL for instance. Golly, this is a can of worms right here, man. I mean, there's been a lot. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't talk about the LBL because that's sensitive. 'Cause you live up there, okay? I don't know. I mean, we're putting out new stuff pretty often. I mean, I bring people on my show all the time and talk about the research and stuff. What do you mean by
Yeah.
new? What do you
Well,
mean by new? That's my
I mean,
question.
I mean,
I'm about to be triggered. No, I'm just kidding. You're about to trigger me.
well, here's an example. Here's an example of something new. So we had a conversation the other night, and during that conversation, I mentioned about eye glow,
Yes.
self illuminating eye shine.
Yeah.
You know, everybody has got these concepts of how that's possible,
Yeah.
bioluminescence, and all this good stuff, and that's all good stuff. But it's the same stuff that everybody's been saying for the last 10 years. And there's not anybody that has come out with any plausible new hypothesis on that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I don't know what that stuff is. I don't know how they do it, you know. But yeah, if we could get some real good solid data on that, that would be amazing. You know, I even with like we talk about the interdimensional aspect of Bigfoot and these cryptids too, and like them going invisible and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I really dive into it here, like trying to figure out like what is that? Are they hitting the portals? Are they going in and out of portals? I mean, I've even taken those deep dives on those like invisibility, quantum stealth materials and things like that. Like just trying to look at it from every angle because we're trying to figure out what the heck's going on here. But if somebody had some real serious data, some like proof, some evidence, like what's really going on here, I'd love to hear it. So yeah, you're 100% right on that, all that.
But I mean, and the reality of it is we can't fault people for not having having the answers because,
Hmm.
you know, or having new information.
Yeah.
Well, let me back up on that. Oh, I guess we can, because the reality of it is all the answers are out there. We just have to be in the location willing to find and look and find them and accept them. The answers are there
Yeah. The answer's there. I'm out there
because
chasing the answers.
because I guess I look at it from the perspective of if I can do it, anybody can do it. If I can
Yeah.
look for and find the answers to how these things are able to self eliminate their eyes, then anybody can do that.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
didn't do any. I didn't even have to really look for it. It was just there.
Yeah.
But it's
That's
something.
good. Thank you,
It's something.
Bernard. Yeah.
It's something. It's something that nobody's ever mentioned. Nobody's ever thought about, and they've never come up with that. It's like looking at the whole subject of the. And I'm figuring. I know you're fixing to make a face as soon as I say this.
What?
This
What?
this whole subject of the shofar.
Oh yeah.
You know,
What?
I
Tell,
sat
dude. Just say. Just tell us. What? What is
I
it?
sat on that for 10 years before I ever said anything. But supposedly there were all these conversations that were taking place, and this, that, and the other, and all this research that was taking place. You know, I mean, what is that?
Tell. So what you're saying is like you had that information and you were excuse me, that's my dog. So you've had this information, you were kind of sitting on it for a while. I can't find the dog treat. Sorry. So you're sitting on it for a while, and then you go out in the field and use it, or did you tell people about it, or how did it get out there? Because it did kind of spread like wildfire at some point. I heard it. I heard it on several different podcasts, and
Well,
that people talking about doing that, using the shofar out in the field to, I don't know, is it opening portals or whatever, but it definitely attracts Bigfoots and Dogmen, from what I understand.
well, here's the thing with that. And this is the side of the story that you won't hear unless you hear it from me. And that's why I'm kind of mentioning it tonight is because when I came up with that and I was doing that research, you know, I had come up with the whole concept of how it worked, why it worked, and some of the dangers of it. Not all of them, but a few of the inherent dangers of using that method to call these things. And um, so, to answer the question of how it got out there, do you want the truth? I mean, do you think the public or the people out there in the community are ready for the truth of how it got out there?
I don't know. Maybe depends on what the truth is. I guess. Yeah. I mean, hey, we all need the truth about stuff. I don't know.
Well,
I just don't
well,
want to. I don't want to ruffle a bunch of feathers. People come at me, but it's all good.
well. They
This is
won't
for
come.
entertainment purposes only.
They won't come at you. They'll come at me. But
The
uh,
opinions are all of my guests, not of me. I'm just
so
playing with you.
so the whole thing with it is I had this research, I had this information, but I did not have a location to test it in. So because I did not have a location to test it in, then I because I thought that I had a 20 plus year friendship that I could trust in a researcher, that I kind of gave them a little bit of the information to work with and asked them would they be interested, because I knew that that researcher was traveling to different locations. I asked them would they be interested in testing it to see if it worked. And so long story short, during the course of them doing that, um, that information, if the old saying, three people can keep a secret if two of them are dead, right?
Oh, dang.
So
Okay.
because that person was around other people when they were using that method, other people kind of ran with it and were talking about it amongst themselves and all that good stuff. So, you know, yeah, it was um, a a poor judgment on my part to think that I could trust somebody with that, because the reality of it is this: I had I had in my mind formulated a direction to go with that research, and basically that was all taken away because the people involved thought that it was more important to say, hey, this is cool, this is something new, this is something that works, we want to share this publicly, whether I want to be involved in that or not.
Oh,
So,
gosh. Did you feel like you kind of got undermined or something a little bit in it?
well, well, let's just say at first, when everything started going on with that in that direction, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was pissed about it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, dude, I asked you to keep that to yourself, and here you are, you're in Oklahoma, and you're using that method in front of 30 people. you know, I mean, what's up?
Mm-hmm. How dangerous is that using a shofar out in the field?
Well, here's the thing about it. The thing about it, now I'm not going to get into a whole lot of detail other than to tell people not to use that
Mm-hmm.
method to call them. It does work, but here are the
Okay.
things that you need to keep in mind with that. And they are: one, and most importantly, is just remove Bigfoot from the equation altogether. When you take something that is supposed to be holy and you misuse it, or you use it for a purpose other than what it was intended for, what is that? I mean, you're in essence, uh, you're going against the. I'm trying to think of the best way to explain this where I get my point across. So basically, in a nutshell, you're you're using it for a purpose other than what God intended it to be used, and because you're doing that, you are going against God. And I'll be the first to admit, you know, once I got deeper into the research of that subject, and I realized the magnitude of what that what using that for that purpose was or could be, um, I'll be the first to admit, I had to repent for that because of the simple fact that you know everything everything if you're and I'm not here to push religion or any denomination or anything like that. I'm just speaking from my beliefs and my belief system. When you use something that God created in a way that it's not supposed to be used, especially in a negative inverted way, then you're jeopardizing a lot of things when you do that. And you know, um, because I put that information out there, I felt very responsible for doing that. So you know, outside of the whole scenario, on a personal level, I had to seek repentance for that. Now, part of that was, me trying to convey that, you know, the aspect of that to the people involved and to try to get them to listen to my viewpoint on it. And at first, they weren't very receptive and they continued to do what they were doing. And it got to the point where, I was like, look, you don't need to do this or continue to do this because, you know, they really didn't pay attention until I started talking about things like you're jeopardizing your soul and you're jeopardizing your salvation by doing that. Now,
Whoa.
now I'm not saying that using a shofar for that purpose does that, but it could, because I mean, if you look at it, if you look at the whole subject of the Nephilim, right? You had the fallen angels that came down. This is nutshell. They wanted to pollute the bloodlines of the earth. First, it was with humans, then it went to all the creations on the earth. They basically wanted to take everything that God created and make it into something that benefited them. So, in doing so, that put them into the fallen, into the place that they are now. So, I guess until I got kind of serious about, hey, this is not a good thing to do, and here's why. And there's other reasons why it's not a good thing to use that I haven't ever shared with anybody, but they're minute in the grand scale of things, and you know, it's just things that we are not supposed to do, and um, so I guess in a nutshell, I tried to warn people, and I will warn people that using a shofar to call cryptids is not just dangerous; it's to you personally by doing that. Um, so used to be to answer that question, Scott.
Let me read the question out loud so the audience can hear that's listening on
Sure.
podcast. So, Mark, do you think that cryptids are Nephilim?
So to answer that question, I think it's kind of um, important to realize the hierarchies that exist. So when you look at the biblical narrative, when the fallen angels came down and they looked upon the daughters of men and they decided that they were going to cohabitate with them. So basically, um, what they did was they tricked these women by presenting themselves as their husbands, and these women thought that they were actually interacting with their husbands when they weren't. So they had offspring. Their offspring between a human and these fallen angels were what are called the Nephilim. So some at some point after that, it was determined that it wasn't enough for the fallen angels to pollute the human bloodline. They wanted to pollute every bloodline on the planet.
It's diabolical. Just
Well,
saying.
just basically to mock God's creation
Hmm.
and to turn God's creation into something other than what it was intended to be. So they came along and they interacted, and I'm choosing my words carefully.
Yeah.
So they interacted with all the bloodlines on the earth.
They
And
interacted. Yeah.
so in doing that, if you look at the biblical progression, those offspring were what are referred to as the Raphaim. So it is possible that some of these cryptids that we're encountering are descendants of, to say that they're descendants of the Nephilim is accurate, to say that they're descendants of the Raphaim is accurate, but it all depends on what angle you want to look at it from. So, and yes, cosmic they are. So, and that's just my opinion, and that's from a lot of research that I've done. And interestingly, and I'll talk about this uh, this one encounter. So during the time that I was, um, so there was a time where I was living in an area that I like to call the hot zone, and that particular area, there was a lot of Bigfoot activity in that area. So I was living in an apartment building, and I say apartment because what it was, um, it was actually a 6 unit. At when it was built, it was originally a 6 unit motel that is down by the lake, and they rented as a motel for many years, and they would have fishermen and hunters that would come in and rent those. So they were having a problem with upkeep and you know getting uh, rentals for that property. So they decided what they were going to do is they were going to convert them into apartments. So they converted that building into um, 3 apartment buildings or apartments. And I was living in one of those units at the time. And at that time, um, I was working remotely. And now, during the day, when I would be working, I would have the curtain. Now, imagine, if you will, um, this apartment unit had a 4 foot by 8 foot window in the front of it. So, great big huge window. So I would pull the curtain back on it during the day so the sunlight could come in and what have you. So I'm sitting there doing my thing and talking to customers on the phone and doing my thing. So one night I'm sitting there working and I looked up and I could see that I had forgotten, because normally what I would do, because I had this, not really a fear, but it was just a thing that I didn't want to deal with. I didn't want to be sitting there working and look up and there'd be a Bigfoot standing there. So I would pull the curtain shut before it got dark. Well, that particular evening, I didn't do that. So I'm sitting there and I'm doing my thing and I'm talking to a customer, and I look up, and for anybody that's ever done any kind of computer work, they will understand the value of looking away from the computer periodically off into a, like out a window or whatever, so that it doesn't have such a dramatic effect on your eyes and your vision.
Same with looking in a FLIR or a thermal night
Hmm.
vision. Yeah.
So I was sitting there talking to this customer, and I look up, and I can see it's already dark, and I can see an airplane flying across the sky, and I can see the light flashing, and then it passes out of view. So I'm sitting there, and I get done with that customer, and I'm talking to a new customer, and I'm sitting there, and this wasn't like 2 or 3 minutes later, and I look up and I see that same light that I had seen earlier, but it wasn't moving and it wasn't flashing. It was just there, sit, sitting there in the sky. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, hold on a minute, that light's not flashing. And I'm like, at that time, I had a what do they call it? I think they call it a torchiere, one of them lights that it's on a stand. It's got a light bulb at the top, and it's like a flower at the top. You know what I'm
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about?
Yeah.
So I had one of those in my living room area, and it was behind me. So I thought, oh well, it's just that light shining off the window. So I didn't pay any attention to it. So I'm sitting there talking to this dude, and I look back up, and I see just like a single flicker of movement in that light. And I'm looking at it,
Oh.
and next thing I see, I can see the side of his this thing's face. I can see this side of his
Oh
face, and I can see that it's got gray, leathery skin. And I'm like freaking out inside. And I'm like,
my
"Wh-
gosh.
and this thing is standing there looking at me. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? Because I mean, I'm like no more than 4 foot away from this thing. If it wanted me, it could have busted that window and got me. Because
Ew.
my computer was right up against that window. And I'm like, kind of freaking out inside, not really knowing what to do. So during that encounter, while that thing was there, it wasn't really mind speak per se,
Hmm.
but it was just an impression that I got from this thing. And the first thing was that it was sad. That's what I picked up, that it was sad. And the next thing, I was it was kind of weird
Hmm.
the way that I picked up that it was sad. It was like I didn't understand why it was sad. And I looked down at the computer and I looked back up. And when I looked back up, it was gone. And then a couple seconds later, I hear the landlord's dog, which she was a big lab, she was going nuts. She did not like this thing being in her territory.
Uh-oh.
And
Was it
I'm,
outside? The dog was
yeah,
outside?
yeah, the dog was outside. And I was like sitting there and I was like trying to figure out what had just happened, what was this thing, and why was it sad? And I was like, then it hit
Because
me.
it couldn't get to you?
No,
It was sad? I'm just kidding.
no.
What was it? What do you think?
Well, after I sat there for a few minutes and thought about it, you know, it kind of the realization came to me that it was sad because it wasn't like me.
Oh, wow.
So so in saying that, you know, at the end of the day, and I know what I'm fixing to say is going to upset people, and I'm sorry. There's no other. This is my interpretation of it. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that all Bigfoot are evil. I'm not saying that they're all bad. The first thing that it's important to realize is they cannot. They did not ask to be here, and they cannot help what they are. But at the end of the day, according to the Bible, they are an abomination, and they are not, because they are not supposed to exist.
Hmm.
And there's nothing that anybody, not me or anybody, could say that can change that. Now, I know a lot of people wouldn't follow that, but if you go back and you look at the whole Nephilim concept, you know, why did we have the Great Deluge? Is because they, the Nephilim, were not supposed to exist. They were not part of God's creation. And because of that, it was necessary for them to be destroyed. and that was God's chosen method to do that. So, um, you know, I always tell people, I always tell people, the biggest mystery about Bigfoot is not is not that is not that they are here, not that they exist. It's that they understand completely what they are, and we're the ones that don't remember or understand what we are.
That's deep right there. That's deep.
Because
You guys asked, and he's telling you. Okay, this is wild. I don't think we've ever had this full conversation before, Mark.
well, there are things that for whatever reason I may not get into, but I mean, and like I said, I'm not trying to say it is this or it is that or whatever, but if it is a descendant of the Nephilim or the Raphaim, and you know, it is what it is, if that's what they are.
Wow, that's really interesting though. Like, I mean, I always have people asking, like, do you think that Bigfoots or Nephilim and stuff? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have any of the answers. Okay, but that you're putting a lot of interesting information out there, and according to the Bible, that's what it says, right? That's what I don't know.
But I
This
mean, don't
is
get me wrong.
there's a lot of people agreeing with you in the chat too.
I'm
A
not,
lot of
I'm not,
people.
I'm not advocating for their destruction or anything like that.
Hmm.
Um, but I think that if we look at it through a hard objective lens, look, I've had over 20 encounters with these things. I know they're real, but I have to
Yeah,
be objective about everything in order to be able to speak on any of the things that I'm speaking.
yeah. You've put a lot
Because to
of
do
research and thought into it. That's for sure.
because to do otherwise is a disservice to me and to anybody I talk to about it.
Hmm. Yeah. And so to circle back around to the shofar, okay. So
Oh, well, here we
not
go.
to ruffle your feathers now or to whatever. I'm just saying, like, that's a very spiritual tool, very
Yeah,
spiritual,
yeah.
and what it's doing, it's a multifaceted, type of a tool. Okay, it's got a lot of different purposes to it, a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
different things that it can do, and my concern was always my main concern because I didn't know a whole lot about the shofar. I didn't know anything about it really, but it was just the whole tones, the sound frequency, and how it attracts cryptids like Dogman and Bigfoot. But I don't think it's just that. I don't think they're just attracting them. I think it's opening a portal, and
Well,
that concerns me.
here's the thing with that. Now, I'll be the first to admit, and now I've not talked about this a whole lot. I don't think I've ever really talked about this publicly, but um, other people who shall remain nameless at this point have talked about it, and have mentioned this particular incident. So, uh, and for the record, uh, I think it's important that people realize and understand that when you hear this person talk about the shofar, and I'm not trying to take anything away from anybody, and I'm not trying to negate the time and the effort that they put into it in any way. But what I do believe in is, first and foremost, being honest and being truthful above anything else. So, in an effort to promote that, I asked that individual not to bring my name up when they talk about that subject, because at this point, and to be honest, once again, I've heard a lot of stuff said that is just not true. And with regards to, oh well, me and Mark had all these lengthy conversations and this, that, and the other. One or two conversations a year is not a multitude of conversations about that particular subject. I sat on that subject for 10 years before I ever brought it up to him. So where these conversations happened, I don't know, but it wasn't with me, you know, and so, but nonetheless, like I said, I'm not trying to take anything away from them. They
Yeah.
put time into it, and did do what I asked them to in some respects. Um, did other things that I asked them not to do, which I understand, and I tried not to be judgmental about that at this point. But it doesn't change the fact that it happened the way that it did, and that because of the way that things went down with that, I've just kind of asked that I not be mentioned, because I don't want to be associated with anything that's not truthful. And not saying that what they're saying is not truthful, other than the obvious things that I mentioned before, like the conversations and the information that was, you know, it's been presented that it was like a meeting of the minds, and there was no meeting of the minds. So, in a nutshell, what it was I gave that person a little bit of information. I did not tell them everything. Asked them would they like to be involved, and they kind of took it and went their own direction with it. And whether the instances of what they're saying happened the way that they're saying that it happened, I don't know. I was not there. But
Mhm.
in saying that, there was an incident that took place, and to circle back around to it, why is my hair turning red?
No, you got to catch on fire.
No, I was thinking about that press secretary that's we're going to circle back around.
Oh God, remember her?
So,
Circle back.
anyways, circle
Right.
back. So, anyways, there was there was an incident where we went to this location, and I was totally unaware that individual had the shofar with them. I did not know they had it. I did
Uh
not know that
oh.
they were going to use it.
Yeah.
So we pulled into this location, and we got there, and it was a few minutes after we got there. I kind of stayed over near my truck, and I could hear them talking over by the other vehicle. Well, next thing I hear the shofar. And then
Hmm.
right after it, the only way I can describe this is, you want to talk about a glitch in the matrix?
Yeah.
I stood there and watched everything shift,
Wow.
and
Visually.
visually. And the gentleman that was riding with me in my vehicle was looking at a tower, an observation of basically an old fire tower through a thermal when this happened. And they thought that when it happened that it was a glitch in the thermal. They saw it too,
Oh
but I was
wow.
like, no, that was not a glitch. It was a actual glitch in time,
Wow.
and
Glitch in
everything just
time.
everything, space, time, everything shifted.
The timeline shifted or something. That sounds crazy.
It's like, I don't know. It's
So
like,
it's not just a portal opening, it's a complete shift. It's like you're
well,
jumping.
well,
Like you're
I don't know if
that's
that's
wild.
what it was. All
Yeah.
I know is after it happened, the I just got the feeling that there was a
Wow.
portal opening that took place, and I didn't want to be there. I told the guy that was riding with me, I don't care. You can keep riding with me if you want to, but I'm leaving. I don't want to be here. I was ready to go. I didn't want to be around it. You know, first off, I didn't know that they even had it. And, you know, they didn't even see it when it happened. They didn't see that shift in time. And it's just like everything just did this number.
Whoa. Wow.
So I was visually seeing everything glitch.
Wow. Actually glitch. Oh, wow.
Weird.
That's wild. Man, you have really told me some stuff tonight that I've not heard before. And I am super, gosh, thank you so much for being so candid about all this. We need to hear these things, especially
Well,
me being out in the woods and stuff. And I mean, I've never been, that's why I said it's important to be careful, like know who you're going out in the woods with and what they got with them and what they're planning to do. I actually typed up operational orders for the team. And so we have, I'm not saying we're super strict and we go by them 100% all the time, but there's guidelines there. And I'm going to add in the next op order, no shofars, y'all, because
well,
that's, I mean, that just sounds kind of dangerous to me.
well,
But
the whole thing with it is, not only is it dangerous from just a use perspective. You know, we don't really. So to say that we don't understand what when these things are answering the call, that we don't let's just put it like this. Some people some people out there do not understand why they are answering that call. They have speculated why they are answering that call, but they're incorrect in some ways. So you don't know. It's just like anything. If you if you see a dog walking down the road and you whistle at it and you try to get it to come over, you don't know if that dog's going to be friendly or whether he's going to bite you when he gets there.
that's right. That's right.
So you don't know whether you're calling these things to just respond and show up, or whether you're calling, hey, come, you know,
It's a mating call. Boy, wouldn't that be something?
that would be terrible.
Golly. Yeah, that would be bad
So
because you really don't know.
so there's a lot of implications with it that are unknowns that make it a very dangerous proposition to use one of those shofars to call
Yeah.
them. And that's just outside of the whole perspective of it being going against God's intended use for that instrument.
Hmm. Wow. We've touched on the shofar before, but you've never told me this before here, and so very very important information. I know a lot of people in the chat even are familiar with it and hearing the stories about them and stuff, and seeing them on. I've heard about them. People using them on other people's podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just something that nobody that I've ever gone out in the field with has ever had one. We've never done that. That would be something that would be like experimental, I guess, and
And
nobody's used it. But I think the people, maybe I would assume that a lot of the guys on my teams would kind of know the implications of like what that is and like what would happen, maybe. But I don't know. Now they will because I'll talk about it with them. I need to.
well, also I just want to mention, some people might say, "Oh, well, he's just butthurt because he's not involved and blah blah blah," or whatever. Trust me, you know, I do not care about limelight. I don't care about trying to be somebody in this field. Only thing I care about is the truth.
Hmm. That's
And
why I like you coming on the show.
and at the end of the day, that's what matters to me the most.
Yeah.
And something that everybody needs to understand is that there are people out there who do not like the truth, even though they might say that they do.
Dang, we circled it around again.
You want me to talk about some more folks?
Circle back. Absolutely not. It's getting late. I only got like 5 hours of sleep this morning. I stayed up. I was one of the last ones to go to sleep last night.
Yeah.
Early. It was actually early this morning out there in them woods. I stayed up because I didn't want Drewski to stay up by himself. I felt bad,
Yeah.
so I stayed up
Well,
with him. We had to have somebody garden everybody.
well, I was just joking.
Yeah,
Like
I
I said,
know.
I'm not here to. I'm not
I'm
talking
putting a
about any of
stop
this.
to it. Just kidding.
I'm not trying to. I'm
Oh
not
my
trying to
gosh.
kick anybody down or destroy anybody or steal anybody's thunder. If that's
You're
what you
funny.
want, go for it. I
Oh
mean,
gosh. Don't come at us, y'all. How many I think I have to say that every time you come on now. I'm like, y'all don't come at us.
well, I
I don't
mean,
even know who y'all are, but I'm just saying. Um, I can appreciate that. I can appreciate it. We do want the truth, and it is sometimes it's tough. A lot of people sometimes people take our ideas or things we've got and they kind of run with it, and they take it and they make it theirs and kind of distort it a little bit and stuff that kind of stuff that happens to me. Okay, but see the things I don't have that kind of like the shofar information like that's kind of wild. It's kind of a big deal too because that's something that could shift our reality like you
yeah.
said, like you
Well,
watched
the,
it
the
shift the
other thing
reality
about it,
right before your eyes.
yeah, the other thing about it is, if it opened a portal during that particular instance, there was no effort on that individual's part made to close it
Hmm.
because I'm assuming they don't know how to close it
Yeah.
if they open one. And, that's problematic, you know. So it, it explains, I'm trying to think of the best way to put this without breaking trust because if you don't have honesty and integrity and trust, then what do you have? So I will just say that there have been some things that have been encountered that do not fit the typical Bigfoot Dogman description in
Hmm.
the LBL. And I don't know if it's the result of that or not.
Oh.
Leaving portals unclosed.
Yeah. Yeah. This is real talk. That's real talk. um that's something that I have to wonder sometimes. I talk a lot about like ritualistic stuff. I mean, what's the difference? This is a kind of a weird question, but is there a difference between like people going in there and doing like satanic rituals and stuff as opposed? I know it's different, but like the shofar, like they're opening portals too. You know what I mean? Like I know that's a terrible comparison to make, but it's kind of like, I mean, it's not any worse or better than that, right? I mean, I don't know. Using that, especially
It's
if you don't know what you're doing with it.
it's if you're using it for that purpose now, I don't know if they would be equal
Yeah, I
if
don't know.
if you're using
Kind of
it
what
for
I was
that
getting at.
purpose. Because
I mean, just with the result, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
the
yeah,
result of like having a portal that's like opened or and like conjuring something that could be potentially disastrous, for the general public. I mean, my goodness, you live not too far from there.
yeah,
That affects you and your family. You got dark entities running through, the national park over there, and it's right there at your home. That the cryptids and the animals they don't know, they don't have boundaries. Like if they don't know not to
true.
cross that line of like the state park or the national park into your private area right there,
Yeah.
into your yard.
Well, I think, and this is just my opinion, that if you knowingly or unknowingly are opening portals and not closing them,
Yeah.
that you're doing something that could be of hazard to someone else or yourself, because you don't know what's coming through that portal. There may not be anything, but what if something decides to come through that?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff. A lot of weird stuff creeping around that LBL out there. And yeah,
We didn't
shadow
even talk
being.
about we didn't even talk about the people.
I hadn't even talked about the weird people running around and stuff. I know. Uh, there's no telling what all's going on out there, man, and what all's been conjured and kind of led through portals and stuff. So I do know that I was talking to my buddy Harley last night, or today. I think it was last night or today, and he was telling me he's like that place. He said he felt like it was evil out there at the LBL. He said that was what he picked up on out there. He's like he didn't even want to be there. Once he got up there, he was like, it didn't feel good.
Well, there are places that have that feel,
Mm-hmm.
but I think overall it's not a evil place, but there are places that are.
Well, and that's kind of the same, right? Like anywhere you go to, because there can be times where, in the research areas that I go to, I mean, just anywhere in everyday life, you just go somewhere and that place just feels evil. It just feels off. Like Corpsewood Manor, that place I talk about in North Georgia, it's horrible. It's a horrible feeling when you go there. During the daytime, it's not so bad, but at nighttime, it's just ugh. It's an icky feeling. It's really icky, and it's just not. It's not somewhere you want to be. You certainly don't want to get left there by yourself. I will not be demon bait. Okay. I mean, I'm sure I've been, I don't know. I'll be Bigfoot bait, but I'm not going to be bait at Corpsewood Manor ever. I
Yeah,
don't care. I would never do that.
mm-mm-mm.
Yeah. But, but I guess my point was like, it's, everywhere, you can go one place and it feels okay. And the next place just feels like crap. It's
Yeah,
this evil feeling. It's not just the LBL. But
it's
but
weird how that
nonetheless,
works.
yeah, it is. It is. It makes you wonder about the land and like the history behind the land, like what's been done there. Is it ritualistic? You know, um, what is the true history? See, all these subjects kind of meld together. That I talk
Oh yeah,
about. Everything just is kind of connected and all melts together. Our hidden history is a big part of the missing puzzle too. Like what truly has happened, what truly has been on these lands that are so haunted and have cryptids there. What's the truth behind it? Um, it's not just all surface level here. There's layers to it.
oh yeah, and everything. Uh, every cause has some kind of effect,
Hmm.
for
That's
sure.
true. Yeah, there's always cause and effect. Yes. Oh, y'all, I'm so sorry. I've not been keeping up with all the comments for the past few minutes.
Slippity.
I just get enthralled and get into the conversation. I'm listening, and we've got a lot of great comments tonight. And man, we've had a great chat going on tonight. And so I want to thank you for being here, Mark,
You're welcome.
and for
Thank you
being
for having
so
me.
candid. Gosh, you've been really super candid every time you come on here, and I really appreciate that. And
Well, one thing about it is I'll be the first to admit that I make no claims to being anything other than myself. I don't claim to be an expert on anything. My opinions are just that, opinion. I'm prone to be wrong, and if I'm wrong about something, I'm big enough to admit that I was wrong and to change my perspective.
yeah,
Um,
me too.
so you know, um, and I just want to make it once again clear. I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but I think that it's important that people know the backstory on some of these things, and um, you know, because it I'm not. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to get people to say, oh well, we should only listen to what Mark has to say about this and whatever. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying we need to test the information that's being released, because and that goes whether it's from people releasing shofar information or whatever. If you encounter information, if you don't make an effort to test it, then you have no way to validate it. And that's where I think a lot of people fail, is because first off, they're not even trying to test the information. They're just taking it as it is, and saying, um, this is the gospel truth, and this is the
Mhm.
way it happened, and you know maybe that is not the case.
Yeah.
But if you don't try to test it and validate it, then where are you at?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's a very good point, Mark. And I know you've done plenty of testing yourself. And I am just like you. Like I'm super open to stuff, and I I have literally changed my mind about stuff live on air for everybody to see. Okay, when I'm presented with some evidence, like, and I keep such an open mind. My mind is kind of too open sometimes. I think so far outside the box sometimes that I guess that's a good thing. I mean, we got to have some people in this world that do that. I guess
Oh yeah.
I just try to see all the different possibilities to things, and I look at before something I do something. I think of all the different outcomes that could happen, all the different timelines that's going to create, and which timeline do I want to go down. So every decision we make puts us on another timeline, basically, and we have free will. We're able to do whatever we choose to do. We can do it, but I'm striving for like my highest timeline all the time, and what's best for me and everybody involved. That's the way I look at it. And so the truth is very important, no matter how bad it
Oh, yeah.
hurts, and no matter how hard it is to say. The truth is the ultimate goal here, and that's what my channel is about. That's what the disclosure movement's about as well. It's like, put everything out there. Let's figure out what the truth is, and let's go from there. And sometimes it's a hard truth, but
Yeah, most definitely.
yeah.
But I just, I don't know. Being being truthful and being an honest person, sometimes it's kind of a uh, not very populated environment.
It's lonely in these truth movements over here. It's kind of lonely, get lonely. Um,
Because
but
the
you're
bottom line
right.
is, when you have people that you talk about that may or may not be truthful, they automatically take that as an attack. And I just want to make, I'm not trying to attack anybody. I'm just trying to share the truth.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, if it fits, strap that sucker on.
Oh man, I love your brutal honesty. I appreciate it. Um,
Trust me, there's some people that don't.
yeah, actually, you know what? You told me that when the first time I ever met you, I talked to you, and you told me that you're like, yeah, not everybody likes my. I forgot how you said it. You said it just like however you just said it. I was like,
Mhm.
oh, just brutally honest. Okay,
Yeah,
and
sometimes,
uh,
I
and
mean,
that's why I think you're cool, man. That's why I like you, Mark. I think you're
brutally
cool.
honest with very little
Yeah,
filter.
I know. I know, and I appreciate it, and I it's going to stir up controversy. We're going to have people that get upset probably, and they're
Oh
hey,
yeah.
the more people that share this video out, the better. Y'all go ahead and please subscribe and like the video, y'all, and Share it out. Share it out to everybody. We don't. Please, we need the truth needs to be out there. And yeah, we didn't. Neither Mark nor I. We don't mean anything. Like trying to hurt anybody's feelings,
Yeah.
or there's no harm meant by this talk tonight that we've had. This is a talk. It needs to be said. Okay, because whatever comes out of our mouths probably needs to be said. I'm just saying.
Well, it's like, I mean, when I was joking around and asking if you want me to talk about some other people, I mean,
No,
I mean,
just don't stop.
the
I'm just kidding. Please don't.
I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of bizarre because it's like some people just, I don't know. It's like they live in some kind of fantasy land where you ever play that game when you were a kid, Fantasyland?
Yes, I did, with the candy canes and all that.
I
Oh
was
yeah,
just
that was one of my favorite games when I was a kid. It was a board game. If you guys aren't familiar with that, I think from what I can recall. Yeah. Maybe I'm thinking of Candyland. I'm thinking of Candyland. Is that the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What's up? We all are living in our own realities, and but if everybody wants true disclosure, true truth, I think that Mark put a lot of this out on the table tonight, y'all. This is stuff, Mark, you've never talked about this stuff so candidly on my show before when it comes to like the shofar stuff and a lot of these things, and I just appreciate it. And so if anybody's ever wondering, because we all hear about it and stuff, and so you heard it from the source tonight, everybody. That's all I'm saying. Okay, you heard it from the source.
Like I said, I'm not trying to be somebody. I just I sat here and I told everybody that I actually had to seek repentance for even sharing that. So, I'm not trying to make money off of it in any way. I'm out here trying to promote the truth and to get people to that may be tempted to use that method to consider not doing so because of not just the physical but the spiritual implications of it. So anyhow,
yeah. Well, now we know. The more you know, I got that shooting star.
mm-hmm.
The more you know, guys. And yeah, thank you, Mark, so much for being here tonight. You always keep it spicy. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm still going off pure adrenaline from the Dogman investigation and stuff. So
just wait till your phone starts ringing.
I don't answer my phone. Anybody who calls me knows I don't answer. Okay. Well, I mean, I'll answer some people. If I got your number in my phone, I feel like talking, I'll answer it. Okay. But I keep my ringer off. I keep my ringer off. I'm
actually surprised mine hasn't started ringing.
It's gonna be on spam. All I get are spam calls. What about y'all? Everybody get spam calls? Nobody gets as many spam calls as me. I don't know why. I get a lot of spam. Every time I look at my phone, it's like possible spam.
Yeah, I get those too.
Yeah, somebody put my number in some kind of something, so I get spam calls all the time. I'm gonna change my number. I won't answer it anyways. But anyways, oh my gosh. Yeah, nobody cares. People know not to hit me up about all this stuff. I'm just saying, they know not to hit me up. They know it. I'm just kidding. I don't even know who they are, y'all. I was just kidding. I'm obviously tired. It has been a long weekend, and it's only Saturday night. But yeah, I want to give a shout out to all my fellas that are out there in the woods right now chasing Dogman and Bigfoot. And y'all know who you are. I hope everybody gets home safe tomorrow, and or whenever y'all get out of there. I hope everybody gets home safe. And Mark, thanks again for being here. Where can everybody find you? I know you got a YouTube channel and you got a website.
Yeah, I'm on YouTube, and I've got my website's cryptidville.com. I know I keep saying that I'm going to update my content, but just bear with me.
Take your time. You're busy.
Yeah, I am that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, thanks for having me on again. And
Anytime. Man, I know this is y'all. I got it. Full disclosure. I put this show together like super last minute. Okay, I did because I didn't know if I was going to be back or not. Okay, and I was messaging with Mark. I was like, "You want to come on the show tonight, please? Please come on with me. Let's just talk about whatever." Okay, and so
I'm
you
the one
did,
that picked the topic.
and you did, and Mark picked the top. Well, I wasn't going. I didn't have to tell everybody that, but you did, and I thank you for that. And
Well,
yes, we didn't know where it was going to go tonight, y'all. So
yeah,
this was not pre-planned. If anybody's wondering.
I just felt like there were some things that, and there are some other things, for the future that should be addressed as well. And once again, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to promote honesty, I guess, is probably
Promote honesty. How about that, y'all?
the big
Let's all
thing,
do that. Yeah.
because they're, I mean, so let me ask you a question, Jessica.
Okay.
If, as an example, let's say
Okay.
me, you, Drew,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Drewski.
I'm trying to think of somebody else.
Okay.
Uh, Robbie.
Robbie
Um,
Rain. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of somebody else.
Okay. Don't think
Harley.
too hard.
Harley. Let's
Harley
just
Owens.
pull
Okay.
some random names out there.
Okay.
So let's
People
say we
I've been in the field with all of them.
okay.
Bigfooting.
So let's say we all go to the field. We're
Okay.
out there. We have an experience, right? Why would you be inclined to come back and when you relate the story to exclude one or more of those people from that story?
Oh man.
I know I'm
That
putting
is
you
so
on.
no, it's so weird because I just had this conversation about something else. Like it was a very similar situation. That's weird. We're not going to talk about this on air, but yeah, there's really no reason to do that unless like well, in my experience, I know a lot of people talk about me behind my back and all that kind of stuff, and they don't want to be associated. They want people to know they're associated with me and stuff. And I don't think it's now, but back, there's a little while where people were like that because
Yeah.
I was a crazy one because somebody said I was. So it's that. So it's the same thing. It's same scenario, different day. Okay, and that's just how people are. It's weird. It's so
Yeah.
weird, isn't it? I've
Yeah.
been there. I've been there, Mark. I feel you. I don't know what you're going through, but I know it. I've been
No,
there.
it's just that it's just kind of a weird thing that I've encountered,
I bet people in the audience have been through that too.
and I'm sure there
I
have.
wouldn't doubt it. That's right. Yeah. It is. It is what it is.
Yep.
Joe says the truth scares many. Yeah, that's right. I know. You know what? That's why I'm always telling the audience, like, and on my hunt club, especially if you guys want to become a member of my hunt club, you can. I do like I talk. I give talks like this. I just sit around. Turn the camera on. And I start talking and stuff, and I talk about that, and it's so important. Something that I really focus on is like us being our authentic selves and living in our truth and standing in our truth. I mean, I don't know if I could even. I mean, it'd be so hard for me to lie about something. I just I don't know. It's like I'm allergic to lies and stuff. Like I don't like that. And I may get something wrong occasionally, but it's not because I meant to. You know what I mean? Like I know I live my truth as I live my truth as I know it. Okay, does that make sense? Like I don't know. It's so important just for us to be ourselves and not try to be something we're not. Okay, and that just it circle around to the truth. And I stand in my truth and I live in my truth, and so do you. And that's why I respect you and I appreciate you. Okay, Mark. And
Same here.
yeah. So yeah, we stand on business, y'all. We keep it
Hand it-
100. We keep it
hand it
100.
up in here.
We keep it 100. We stand on business over here. So if y'all want to stand on business, y'all come over to the Cryptid Hunters channel. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, this has been a fun show, y'all. I know it's getting late, and I hope everybody enjoyed this tonight. And yeah, y'all share it out. Y'all share this out to anybody who needs to hear the truth. Oh man.
If they want more, tell them
You want some more, y'all?
holler.
Look, next time we'll do another last minute show, and I'll have Mark. And that's the funny thing, Mark. Like, and we never know. Like, there's no like pre-planning this, so like nobody. We didn't have any trolls in the chat. It was so last minute. I'm just saying. I'm just kidding. All right. Oh God, I love doing this, y'all. If y'all can't tell, this is so fun. Okay. Well, everybody. I hope everybody enjoyed this, and everybody, please come back and see me. I will be back on Monday. I do have Bryce coming on the show with Esoteric Atlanta, and we're going to be talking about haunted Lake Lanier and all those civilizations that are lost under the lakes across America. And it's going to be so good, y'all. It's going to be so good. And so please come back at 1:00 p.m. Eastern, 12 Central on Monday. Okay. And yes, I'm going to go get me some sleep, Mark. It's been a long couple of days. And nonetheless, I made it back, and I'm so glad we got to do a show. Yeah. Any last words, Mark, before we go?
If you can't be truthful with others, then you definitely can't be truthful to yourself.
And
they're both equally as bad. And they're both equally as bad.
Oh my gosh, y'all. We stand on business, y'all. And everybody, please be safe out there. Have a wonderful night. And come back and see me on Monday. Keep your head on a swivel, y'all. And stand in your truth, no matter what. Speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. Right, Mark?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Your voice didn't shake, though. Oh, here's a picture. I was going to show. I didn't want to show this picture because I look horrible in this picture. It's been raining, but this was us last night. That's me. That's me with no makeup on. Yeah, it's just quick. There's Drewski and Harley and me. I had a terrible picture of me. But anyways, that's the only picture I had of us from last night. So, but anyways, that was us in a Dogman investigation. All right, y'all. Everybody have a great night. And like I said, speak your truth. And I'll see y'all back on Monday. Thanks, Mark. Bye, y'all. Have a good night.
Thanks. Good night.